In the gym and in the car, with our advice you could go far. We fuck things up and we make mistakes, and talk about our sexy dates. We host events and go to clubs, but most of all we're still in love. It's getting hard for this to rhyme, just as well, 'cause it's bed hopping time. Hello and welcome to the Bed Hoppers podcast. My name is Mr. H.
I'm Batman.
And why are you Batman, Mrs. H?
I'm Mrs. H, but I'm also masquerading as Batman.
So I think it's safe to say, before we go any further into this episode, that we both have some sort of cough, cold type thing, which is why this episode is running late, but also why you sound like Batman.
It is the house of plague.
The plague
the
house.
Actual plague house.
There is like a red cross on our front door.
There should be.
There absolutely should be.
Yeah.
So we are feeling sorry for ourselves. We're running late. We've not been well. We've not been able to talk. So we thought we'd lovingly craft / knock out a bit of an episode today, because we've got some good things to talk about and we didn't want to leave it any longer before we talked about them, right?
Yeah. And to be fair, this is an improvement on where I was 3 days ago.
It really is. But if you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking a sort of sexualized Shaggy from Scooby-Doo for Mrs. H's voice, then, and that does it for you, then well done. This is the episode that you will enjoy, probably.
You cannot make me laugh this episode, because if I laugh, I will go into a paroxysm of coughing from which I will not recover.
Oh, I put some paroxysm on my hair once.
Oh, I literally will go into some coughing spasm.
Okay, all right.
So gentle. It's a gentle ride, listeners.
I'll do my very best. So before we get into the main thrust of this episode, we want to talk a little bit about some of the events that we've got going on and that we can tell you about, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell them because I can't say that.
I know, right? So we've talked already about the Going Dutch event, which is happening on the 28th to the 31st of July.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. Heading to the Netherlands with the delightful Kate and Daryl from the Wanderlust Swingers, going to sex clubs, going to sex museums, doing some history and historical tours.
Eat some cheese.
Yeah, eat some cheese, have some fun. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, all of this stuff is great. If you want to sign up for that, check the link that's on the show notes. And we think that this will be a really nice, wonderful, intimate little event for not too many people.
Correct.
But if you've ever wanted to go to a club in Europe to explore more in the Netherlands, this is a really good opportunity to do just that.
If you fancy going on a canal boat tour with me.
I see what you did there.
Then now's your chance.
Now is your chance. The other thing that we have announced on Twitter recently is the Hot Summer Nights event, right?
Yeah.
So teaming up with Kate and Daryl from Wanderlust Swingers once more on the 15th of July. July seems to be a busy, popular month. We are going back to Penthouse Playrooms, and we are having a party that is going to absolutely kick ass and be fantastic and be all the amazing, sexy, hot summer night vibes that you might imagine.
I kind of want it to be like some Miami Vice 80s themed thing.
There's definitely an element of Miami, GTA, of sexy summer nights with flirting and dancing and cocktails and all those kind of... I
feel like there might be neon and shoulder pads and stuff.
I feel like...
Or maybe I'm just having like an 80s revival in my head.
I don't think you've ever left the 80s, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we get them to do like an 80s playlist all night?
Well, you know...
I'm going to make them do an 80s playlist night.
You know that I'm not allowed near the music when it comes to sort of hosting a dual event. So we'll have to see about that. Anyway, we've got a hotel sorted out as well, so you can get your tickets and get a room to stay in. There's going to be pre-parties. There's going to be fun. There's going to be games. There's going to be gift bags. There's going to be all sorts of awesome shit.
You're promising the moon on a stick.
I am promising the hot Miami moon, on a stick. So
but it's already 50% sold out. So
it is. It is already 50%.
It's doing pretty well already.
Yeah, it is 50% empty.
Wow. 50% full.
50% full. Okay. It is neither completely full or completely empty. So there are tickets available. We've only just announced them and gone live to the public. We always go first to our Discord members and to the people that have been to our previous events, and then we open up to the public, which is what we've done. So you've got the opportunity to come along, gentle listener, have a look at the show notes, and we'll send you a link to where you can get the tickets, where you can get all the information. So that'll be cool. So this week is mostly us being ill. We had a delightful set of visitors this
Oh,
weekend.
we did.
The amazing Kiwi and Cherie from Sharing is Caring.
The Sharing is Caring podcast. They haven't done any episodes for a little while, which they're very cognizant of, but it was lovely to see them again.
It was fantastic to spend time. It was a very sort of family-orientated weekend.
Yeah, we drank some wine.
We drank some wine. We
Medicinal,
absolutely
of course.
Yeah, we didn't want to give them the plague. But it was really nice just hanging around with them and catching up on, because we haven't seen them for a year, I think.
Yeah.
Catching up on all the gossip, see what they've been up to, see what they've got coming up this year. So that was really lovely. But other than that, we've just been moping around being ill, which is never a good thing. So what we're going to do, something happened on Monday. We want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. And we can talk about it
And we
now.
can now talk about it. So about 4 or 5 months ago,
About that?
production company got in touch with us and asked if we wanted to go on television.
Again.
Not the same production company as last
Different
time.
one.
A completely different one, because they were producing a series of TV shows for Channel 5 in the UK that would be all around the thoughts of sort of positive sexuality, looking at lots of different examples of lifestyles and approaches to sex, everything from toys to sex dolls to swinging to kink to all this kind of stuff. And they asked if we wanted to be part of that show. So we were a little bit reticent at first, I think, because our experience on the last show, whilst we remained as positive as we could be about it, and we thought that we came across okay, the reality is that we don't think it put the lifestyle, or the swinging lifestyle, should we say, in the best light. Is that fair?
I think the last one shed a little bit of a kind of dysfunctional vibe over the whole thing, which was disappointing because that's not what we were seeking to portray.
I'd also say that using Liberty Elite as the Starling club of the UK is probably not the best thing either.
And like you say, although we did our utmost to kind of come across in a really sex positive and uplifting way, and we seek to normalise what we do, and we seek to eradicate sort of shame and judgment in everything we do. There is a real shame, I think, that people did get the impression that to be part of an ethical, non-monogamous lifestyle, you have some level of dysfunction or trauma in your life, and maybe you're a broken people brought together by this. And so we hoped that this one would be more positive.
I think that's definitely where our heads were at, and we were a little bit sort of worried about doing it. So I guess my question for you, Mrs. H, is why do it? Why would we say yes?
Well, we did spend some time talking to the TV company and telling them what our concerns were and what we were hoping not to cover again.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job, I think, of convincing us that that's not what they were aiming to do.
Yeah.
And okay, you have to at some point take them at their word that, their word is good, and they're not going to, throw you under the bus with that. But at the same time, I think we kind of publicize what we do in a really positive way, and we seek to normalize everything we do.
Yeah.
And we seek to bring education and our own spin on things to a community of people that we've grown to really, really love, and hopefully helped to kind of shape some level of, curation in the things that we do. And so I think we wanted to do that more in a bigger way. And if we're going to wax lyrical about how great our lifestyle is and how much we enjoy it, then actually we should be able to put our faces out there and publicly talk about it as well.
We should put our money where our penis is.
Oh, well, maybe. My understanding is there's never any money exchange when it comes to your penis, but fine.
There really isn't. I think one of the things that really struck me is that we had an opportunity to do this again, and the production company seemed like they were sort of approaching this in the right way. Initially, when we had this conversation with them, the show was going to be just a show with, as far as we could understand, with just us in it.
Well, that was the impression
that was certainly the selling point of it.
Yeah.
With the lens of looking at what we do under the sort of view of us hosting events, but also running the podcast. So we thought, great, it's a really good opportunity to normalize stuff, point people towards some valuable resources, and actually sort of reset the previous program that had happened and try and sort of steer this in the right way. I think.
And it wasn't to seek publicity for our podcast, although, good publicity is always nice because it shows what we're trying to do. It's more, I think it would have been nice to grow some more listeners off the back of that, so that more people can benefit, from what we've done. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a useful way so if someone's watching the program, in our heads, we felt that if they watched it, they may have an interest, or it may spark an interest or a conversation. Yeah. And obviously, if we were talking about the podcast, and then this may lead them to lots more details and lots more things that we've discussed that might help them on that journey. Yeah. So I don't think it's ever a case that we're seeking it for the exposure ourselves. No. It feels a little bit altruistic, and maybe, it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but we genuinely wanted to go on and talk about this and present this whole lifestyle in the best possible light from our perspective, to talk about how we do it, our ups and downs.
And why we do it.
And also, I think the last time that we did a TV show, we didn't feel as though the benefits around the relationships that we'd made and the connections that we built were really done any justice. So we wanted to sort of bring that to life as much as we can. So we had a little bit of an agenda, I suppose, doing that. And that was kind of where we were sat. So we agreed to do it. And before Christmas, they rocked up and filmed us. So what was it like being filmed? How did that go?
Okay, so having filmed before, I already knew my expectations were going to be managed this time, I think, around the amount of time it takes to do anything.
Yeah.
However, I actually found the overall filming experience to be really positive. It didn't feel like we were being coerced into saying anything we didn't want to share.
Certainly wasn't a sleazy angle with the crew that we had. And we had an all-female crew of 3 people.
Yeah.
And they certainly didn't seem to be promoting an agenda that felt in any way sleazy or harmful. No. But with the previous TV show, we'd had elements of that with what we were filming. And, we asked them not to show certain bits on that last TV show because actually we felt we were put into some compromised positions.
It felt like they were maybe poking fun a little bit at what we do, maybe the last one. And this one, it didn't feel like that's what their aim was to at all. It felt like we were listened to. And also, we were really, really clear that we're not going to take our clothes off and we're not going to do this. And this is not what we want to do. We really wanted to just talk in a positive way about, why we do what we do.
Yeah. And I think so they followed us for a couple of days. So we had, I think, 3 days filming in total. So one day sort of following us, walking the dog, doing all the domestic stuff, leading up to an event.
Uh-huh.
The following day was going to be what happened at the event.
Yeah.
And filming us doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Though not in our little podcast room. We actually went to a podcast studio that was offered to us, which was really nice.
Yeah, it was really good.
Really helpful. And then the last day was sort of after Christmas, where we did the whole interview on a sofa kind of.
Yeah. I enjoyed that though.
Which was really fun. I think it was an interesting one because we had a couple of hiccups on the day. On the first day filming, because they wanted to film us getting my hair cut and you getting your nails done. Yeah. And your nail salon was having none of it. Once they'd agreed to it all, agreed to the filming, and then on the day, the person that was going to do your nails,
they just pulled out.
Their husband had a sort of moral objection to the nature of the program.
Yeah,
which was kind of difficult, really.
Yeah, I think they thought they were going to be associated with sex in a bad way in some way. And again, it was nothing like that. It was purely going to be these are some of the things that we like to do before we maybe go and run an event.
Yeah, it's all part of the
really just it.
Prep, I suppose, exactly, just kind of how we get ready for it. But actually, I felt that the experience was really good in terms of being filmed. They were really helpful. They answered our questions. They were keen to let us talk about the stuff that we wanted to talk about. And through the lens of us doing that, it was a fun time.
I agree. And they treated us really well. They listened to everything we said, that kind of thing. So I felt looked after and supported.
Yeah. So that was the filming.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks ago, we got a cut of our bit of the TV show. Now at this point, we started to realise that actually it wasn't just us on the TV show.
No.
We started to recognise that there was at least another couple, and that was Vista Wife, Olivia and Gage, who we've met, I think, once at a social previously.
Yeah, we've met socially.
And we knew that we would be sharing the programme with them at least.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't show us any of the other bits. They just showed us a sort of supercut, if you like, of our bit. So
But I was going to say, interestingly, they didn't tell us any of this. We sussed it out.
Yeah, this is just us kind of figuring out through various bits of conversations and emails.
Yeah,
and
and I kind of, I do kind of wonder what the, I don't know if that's just because of a kind of GDPR perspective, sort of, you signed, various agreements and whatnot. We're not allowed to discuss who's on the show with you. But also, and I think this is the difficulty from the last TV show we filmed, it would be nice in a way to actually have the opportunity to meet the other people who are going in to be on the show with you.
Well,
I don't know if that would promote more honest conversations or what.
I'm not sure.
We didn't know either way until we sussed it out for ourselves.
We knew that they had filmed Feast of Wife, which we had initially assumed was part of another episode.
Yeah, I thought they would have had their own complete episode as well.
Yeah, and then we'd heard that they'd done one on a sex doll, so we assumed that was part of another.
Not Feast of Wife.
Not Feast of Wife. That another couple had done that. And so we kind of had this thought that actually this was all going to be separate episodes and it was going to be like a half an hour long program or whatever. So when it came to actually seeing the show, we got this 10-minute, 12-minute cut of just us. And we were really happy. We saw this cut and then we figured out through the process of elimination that we'd be paired at least up with another couple or another story.
Yeah.
But the emphasis was on swinging. So we watched that and we were really happy with it. We were on message. We were doing the right thing. We were saying the right thing. We didn't come across like, as far as we could tell, complete fuckwits. We didn't look awful. Yoko had plenty of screen time as per her contractual demand. So I think we were fairly confident that when we watched the program in its entirety, which we didn't get to see until it went live on the day, that we'd come out okay with it. I think we'd come out and we'd done what we had to do.
Yeah.
And whilst there was a sort of a bit of restriction on the podcast and that they wouldn't use the name particularly, it's particularly on text or in the background or logos or anything like that.
Yeah.
At least there was a lens of, we were recording a podcast or a fake podcast, TV magic and all that, and doing all this sort of stuff. At least there was a chance that people might find us and kind of seek us out as a result of it.
I understand that they didn't want to do any, promotion as such. Okay, that's fine.
It's just TV rags, I guess. So on Monday night, just gone.
Oh, yeah.
We sat down and we watched the show. And really interesting. So this was, the show ended up debuting on 5 Star, which is a sort of, I think it's an online or one of the Channel 5 offshoots.
I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of it. And also I was a little bit surprised how quickly they suddenly went, and it's airing on this date. I'm like, oh shit. Well, okay, that doesn't give me much time to get my head around that one. It's fine, it's what it is, but they kind of originally said maybe something like late spring or something,
April or whatever,
April, May, and so it kind of like came around quite rapidly, didn't it? And they said, it'll be Monday. We're like, okay.
Yeah, I think there was that, and I think we were sort of not robbed of the opportunity, but there was no opportunity to do like a little watch party with anybody because we only really found out a few days before it aired.
Yeah,
so it was kind of like, it's on TV, here we go, we've got to watch it.
And also I think we didn't really know, or we didn't get a lot of guidance maybe around if we were allowed to promote it or, in a positive way, because we could have really talked in advance about, the show happening and that kind of thing. But anyway, it was just thrust out there and we went, okay, that's happening on Monday.
Yeah, I think the difference was on the previous show we were on, we were given lots of guidance around when we could talk about it, what we could say. We were given images to use, we were given links, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This time, none of that. And it was very much, it's on next week. So we just put a tweet out and we're like, we're on TV next week. Watch it if you can.
And I think Mr. Wife did the same, didn't she?
Similar sort of thing, yeah. And I think without that guidance, it was a bit like, okay. And I think we still are waiting for their guidance regarding it.
I know, even though it's actually been publicised already.
Yeah, so obviously we can talk about it because we were on it and we've done it now. So
too late now.
So we sat down and watched it at like 10 p.m. on a Monday evening. And I guess it was what was nice is that because it was on 5 Star, there wasn't a massive amount of viewing going on. Not like the Channel 4 one, which is if you're not in the UK, it's a much bigger channel with many more viewers, I'd say.
And it was advertised more. It was
advertised more. It was a build up to it.
It was trending on Twitter a little bit, that kind of thing.
Whereas with this new show, we really didn't see anything on Twitter. There wasn't much on social media. In fact, the only really responses that we saw were one on our own Discord. So we've got a Keep in Touch Discord where we've got several hundred people, a couple hundred people, and they were watching it and not tweeting, but messaging their thoughts as it went along. And also, there was a thread on Fab Swingers And they were talking about their thing.
And our immediate sort of friend groups.
Yeah,
as
our
well.
immediate friend group and stuff.
But you know what? I'm actually really, really, really pleased that we have that amazing community of people on Discord, because they were a huge support that night. And I'm really, really, really grateful that they're all in our lives in some capacity, because I really needed that, I think, that night.
I think so. But let's before we go into like the community response, let's talk about what we thought about the program. What was good about it? What do we like?
All right. What was good about it is that everything that we said everything that we said we would say came across.
Everything we say and do is awesome.
So exactly what we said was on there.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was kind of
misconstrued.
Yes.
Turned around.
Manipulated is the word I'm looking for. Sorry, I'm in a haze of like some kind of cold meds at the moment. Nothing was misconstrued or manipulated in some way. So that was positive.
Mm-hmm.
I thought everything that we said was good. It was positive. It came across in the right way, certainly. And also, what else was good? Let me think.
I think broadly, I would say that the stuff that Vista Vibe was talking about was on point. There was nothing contentious about it particularly.
No, nothing.
And there was nothing contentious that we said. Now there is a third couple, and we'll come on to the more negative piece in a moment. But I think between the two of us, we kind of presented a relatively rational view of the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
One perhaps slightly
joined up,
more porny than the other, but that's fine. And actually, I think, in terms of us being normal people, which for me is part of the shtick that we're trying to put forwards, is that we're normal. We're not mad. Then actually, you can, as a normal human being, you can enjoy this.
Yeah.
I think that came across.
Yeah, you don't have to be some kind of weird sex demon to be enjoying an ethically non-monogamous marriage.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think, if you're watching the thing, what I would say is every time Yoko is on screen, take a shot, because you'll enjoy that game particularly. I think it looked nice. The style was a little less seedy, but as a result, I think parts of it were perhaps a little bit more comical.
Yes.
And I guess that leads me into what was not so good bit, because I think the not so good bit is the bit we want to get into, right?
It is, and it's also the bit that people are probably interested to hear, because the chances are they resonate with what other people have also found to be not so good.
Yeah, I think the first thing that struck me, because it opens up with a sort of element with Vista wife and her husband playing with another couple, and it is quite. It's not seedy, but it's not. It has the element of sex going on. There is a tease to it, and it's like, this is this person, and she's married, and this is this person, he's married, but not to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it about marriage that and it, for me, it just felt like immediately it set this kind of tone that was a bit too
schlock again.
Yeah, it felt like it was just looking for viewing figures, and that's fine. I get that they have to sell these things, but to me, it was kind of like, we're going down this routine again. The showing of sex at the start to get people interested.
To give you the shock factor and make you think, this is what goes on behind closed doors. I knew there was something about those people. That kind of, they're sex people.
They're sex people in.
Once again,
not in the Valance.
It's annoying, I think, and unfair representation to always portray us as can't stop having sex with people kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more than that, isn't it?
I think so. There was that, which is kind of the intro to it. But to be fair, I think that it's kind of balanced with it flipping back between us and them, and just sort of chatting about the stuff, talking about rules, talking about some of the definitions. The sofa bits are quite good and they're well done, and there's some lexicon work and all this sort of stuff. And then it cuts to
another couple.
Now, I'm sure this other couple are perfectly wonderful and lovely.
Yeah.
But the whole deal with this other couple is they're not swingers. They are an OnlyFans couple that play with a sex doll.
Correct.
And a large variety of super large dildos, right?
From what I could gather, yes, that seems to be the thing.
Yeah, and I didn't get why this was in this program. This felt like something that was filmed for another episode that they couldn't squeeze in somewhere, and they thought, you know what? Let's chuck it in the...
It's all sex. Let's chuck it in there.
They're probably swingers because they're having sex with somebody else. It's a sex doll. Let's do it. And sex doll, I mean, obviously the sex doll can't talk, but and is called D in the program. And it was kind of a bit like free speech for D. Let's let D go. And I think, as we were
sort of looking at this, we're like, what does this have to do with swinging and ethical non-monogamy?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even if you want to look at it objectively, that doll can't talk and therefore can't give actual consent to what's been going on with it. So kind of goes against the breach of what we're doing.
I think for me that it was just an uncomfortable cringe factor in the show that was unnecessary, because it had no place in anything that either us or Vista Wife had been attempting to portray in
100%.
in our interviews. We'd been talking openly about what we get from non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy. We've been talking openly about the connections we build, the social side of things, all the things that, you know, we do that constitutes the way we live our unorthodox relationships.
Yeah.
And then this dynamic comes in with no context. We were completely unaware it was going to be included, for one. Not that they have to give us, you know, this heads up, but it would have been nice to know, because we were absolutely baffled when we saw it. We're like, what now? What does this have to do with anything that either couple has really been talking about?
And the problem is that I mean, they're doing this obviously for money, but I guess there is a level of interest in doing this with the doll, right?
I mean, all good on them. Great stuff.
Great that they're earning money. I'm not knocking the fact that they are going through sex work and this is how they're earning their living and all this kind of stuff. But what it does is it brings in a comedy element that you can't avoid, because the doll has creepy, weird fingers that are all clenched up in a weird way. It has the most disgustingly dirty feet I've seen since Bilbo Baggins left the fucking Shire.
And unfortunately, the dirty feet was exactly something that people did focus on, because once you'd seen it, you couldn't unsee it.
And then, of course, you've got the sort of 1,000-yard stare or 1,000-meter stare, you know, in Europe and all that.
Because it's a doll.
It's a doll. Yeah. And then you've got the inevitable, well, how do they clean it out? What happens with it? Yeah. All this sort of stuff. And then, you know, that couple, bless them, they went on to talk about dildos and stuff. And there was a lot of anal focus for them. Not that they were showing that, but it was kind of, she whopped out a massive, great big tentacle and all this kind of thing. And it just took the whole thing down the wrong way for me.
I'm so sorry, it made me cough. But yes, you're absolutely right. It felt like it was just placed in the wrong episode for me. It's just like a weird inclusion of why is this sandwiched between this and this? It didn't feel right, did it?
I would 100% believe that between Vista Wife and ourselves that we could have covered so much more. And I'm guessing, you know, and I don't know this because, you know, we're not close, but I'm guessing they would have wanted to have talked about their Swing Hub stuff that's coming out.
Of course.
They would have wanted to promote the fact that that's happening, and that's their line into supporting the community. The OnlyFans thing, okay, it's a nice, interesting aside, and it gives an angle of being able to show someone walking around in their underwear. Great. Okay, it brings people in. But if the message is actually, and the reason we're doing all of this is to pay for our community that we're building, or to host events, or to do whatever, great, but they didn't show any of that. And I get the feeling this, because we know that a lot of this stuff about the community thing was recorded by us as well, right? But then they've taken that out, that really great messaging stuff that normalizes this, that helps people understand that we're not all sort of crazy people. Probably not the phrase, probably not a good term, but yeah. And they've replaced it with this strange sort of titillation through this couple that do OnlyFans with a sex doll. And it's almost like there's a sort of byline in there somewhere where it's like, oh, and now they want to try a threesome, but it's for content only. And there's like, oh, and then they've bought another sex doll that they've called Enrique. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with
what we thought the episode
was about. And it's hard enough to help people feel as though they're represented within this swinging lifestyle. Because everyone has, you know, we've got the hot wives, we've got the stag and vixen stuff, there's the kink elements that come into all of this stuff. No, let's chuck that stuff out and talk about a doll instead. And that was really disappointing for me. That felt, I'm going to be honest, a bit like a minor betrayal. And I don't know whether that was the crew that we dealt with, or that was just a director's issue or a producer's issue, or there was extra content available. So it's like, fuck it, we filmed it, we might as well use it. But that stuff really wound me up.
I agree. And you know, again, everyone was very supportive of the fact that we obviously didn't know this was happening either. But I think it was just, it was a shock for us to see it and then be ending up scratching our heads over why this was there. And then you can't help but feel a little bit, that kind of takes the gloss, I think, off the message that we were so proud that we'd managed to put across in all the filming we did, and then to find that most of it wasn't included.
Yeah, I think there was enough of it in, like, if you look at our sort of 12-minute mini cut that we've got sent us, so let us look at, I think that was fine. I think we were on message. That came across really well. I was confident that there was enough of that good stuff in there. But what happens is when you add in the whole other weird bit of it, it takes the light away from that nice stuff that we were talking about. And I think that's where I came away really frustrated.
Yeah, I agree.
What was interesting is that, I mean, in terms of the people from the community, so, you know, our Discord crew were incredibly supportive. I think there was a lot of laughs about the sex doll because it was so random.
Yeah, but it lightened things up for me. I needed to hear it, I think, in that way.
But, you know, that we're there sat there going, what the actual living fuck is this doing? And it's not, and I genuinely mean this, it's not to yuck anybody's yum. I'm not, you know, I wouldn't discourage anyone from playing with a doll or anyone from earning money. It just felt like in the scheme of the narrative that was running through the program, this didn't, it was like someone had taken an entire different third of a movie and shunted it into another movie. And it's like, deal with that, fuckers.
I agree. So to be very clear, no, it's not at all as casting an aspersion on the other couple's dynamic. Absolutely not. I just think it would have been better placed had they been given their own.
I'd have watched the whole program on that because it's on the tin. It does what it's like. Right. You know,
kudos to them. Like, they're having a blast. I like all credit to them, but it just didn't really sit, as you say, with a narrative of what we were all talking about.
Do the doll on OnlyFans? I'd watch a fucking series on it. It'd be great, but it didn't feel like it fit in place with what we're doing. But the community, you know, and they were very supportive over what we'd said and what we did and what Vista Wife had done, and that part of it, I think people were very comfortable with and felt like it was a much more balanced view of swinging as a lifestyle, as a concept, as something you can do as a hobby or whatever. And Fab was very similar. There were a few grumpy sods in there because it's Fab. And, you know, people are going to complain. In fact, one chap on the Fab forum, I say chap, I assume it was saying, I'm sure it's rubbish. I'm never going to watch it. I'm never going to listen to your podcast. But why are you doing this? I was like, well, because if we don't, who else is going to step in? So I think broadly, you know, that everyone sort of felt that the sex doll thing was a little bit misplaced and a little bit odd.
Yeah.
But broadly, they felt that people were much more represented. Now, some people said on Fab that they didn't feel particularly represented. And I think this is the reality of it. You're never going to represent everybody. You're never going to get it all right. And, you know, had you taken out the sex doll and maybe gone with the same sex couple or a couple with a different background or a singleton doing it or any number of different things, you know, there's a much greater chance of representing people in the right way.
There is, but you are never going to please everyone and you're never going to represent every dynamic in the way that people want to be represented. I know. But I think they could have done more to deal with that. I agree. The trick is though, and I said this on the Fab Forum, is that not everyone is going to be as fortunate as us in that they can go on TV or be face out and not have some massive repercussions to their livelihoods, to their jobs, to their family, to whatever. So we almost feel like it's a moral obligation for us to do it because other people can't. So, you know, if you didn't feel as though you were represented, you know, I'm very sorry. All I can say is that, you know, if you feel that you would do a better job of representing, step up, just do it. Just get in touch with these producers when they put the adverts on Fab, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and, you know, generate a presence and have your say and be the representation that you want to be. So, I mean, I guess overall, I mean, I kind of, I've got mixed feelings. I've come away with a relatively positive experience because I don't feel like I look like a complete cunt. I don't feel like you look like a complete cunt. And I feel like we were on message. I feel like Vista Wife did a good job. Gage and Liv did a good job too. More pointy than I would like, but, you know, that's life, isn't it? Different representation. It's hard, you know. But I didn't feel as though the doll thing was in the right space. It wasn't relevant at all to what. No, no, I agree.
So I guess my question to you, Mrs. H. So the phone goes, right?
Oh no.
or email goes or whatever it is, and they say it's we're the producers from, I don't know, BBC 12, because we're going down the chain. Eventually we'll be on like channel 38 or something, which is probably what 5-star shows up on. But we need some swingers to talk about swinging. Would you do it? Would you go on TV again?
Do you know what? I'm kind of feeling like, why should I, if all we're going to ever do is represent you poorly and poke fun at you? But the reality is, it's not all represented that badly. It's just a section of it that made me come away feeling a bit, okay. And I don't think I want to stop trying to normalise and make this positive. I really don't want to stop doing that. I'm not saying that we evangelise the relationship dynamic. It's not about, we're not just trying to recruit disciples for a cult. It's nothing like that. But I do want to continue trying to eradicate the judgment and shame that people feel from indulging in something like this. So I want to keep on doing that, because I think that's what we want. That's where we can make a difference and make an impact. So I'm not against doing more in terms of, speaking publicly and being open about what we do. But I think I would probably have way more questions and not demands, but I would want way more support from that broadcast company, that they would listen to the feedback that we have, which is not to try and diminish, the success of their broadcast by making it a very overly shocking, sexy thing. But also, can you think about the community of people that you are going to impact negatively? Yes, we may get support from that broadcast company, but the audience members do not. And I feel it might well upset lots of people ultimately if they don't at least listen to the things that we have to say.
I think that's
to try
fair.
and represent people fairly.
I think it's really difficult, because I think we felt like we went into this one with eyed wide open, and we asked the right questions. And we did ask about the representation, how it was going to be. And I think the most part for our stuff, that was true. What we didn't realise is that we were doing that show with somebody else and then somebody else again, and that would have some issues associated with it. So I think what I would say is that if we had that call again, we can only go in and ask the right questions. I think we're not producers. Like, ultimately, whilst we do produce the show and we do produce other bits and bobs of our own material, we don't have the sign off on that stuff. So we'll never have, and TV doesn't like giving you the final say on stuff.
I know.
And in an ideal world, you'd be able to consult, like, I don't know, the likes of Alex Fox consults on sex education or whatever it is, whatever show she does, and being there and being, actually, this is not right. This is not the right thing to do. But it feels like the people that are doing that aren't taking into account the swinging part.
I agree. And it's a shame.
So now I want producer and star credits is basically where I'm going with this. But
I understand sex sells. Of course I do. And I understand that they want to make...
On the seashore.
And I understand they want to make content that, is a little bit salacious sometimes, because that's where their viewing numbers will come from. But that's not fair. And that's not right to discredit a community of people in a way that you don't know them. And that, damn it, I want to carry on trying to make it right in some way. And as long as I'm true to what I say, and I don't say the things that can be manipulated and turned into something that I didn't mean, then that can only be a good thing.
I think so. So what I would say is, so if you've not seen it, the show was as I said, on 5-star. And that's, if you look up Channel 5, and it's called Adults Only, Swingers Couples Wanted. Yeah. So, if you're in the UK, it's on catch up, so you can watch it. And if you're in the States, if you have a VPN thing, set it to England, then you should be able to see it there as well. So you should be able to find it out there. Interestingly, the other TV show that we did is available on YouTube. So if you look up that, you'll find that as well, and you can laugh at us on that thing as well. So I think that's probably about it for this week, because we're feeling a bit knackered. We're still not feeling great, and our voices are very swiftly fading.
Dear me. But would you do another one? I know you've asked me and you've kind of like chimed in on that a bit, but also, would you want to do another TV show?
Okay, so
or is it third bitten now?
My take is I feel that I have a moral obligation to stand up for this community because I believe in it, and it's not that I feel I represent it, but it's that we drive content and talk about it honestly and openly and believe in it, and believe in that it can make a difference in people's lives and they can get some enjoyment from it. So as long as we can go in there and do that, then I feel that we've probably got some sort of moral obligation to stand up and do it. Now, where I struggle is if we didn't do it, right? So, okay, we get a phone call tonight and they say, hey, we've got this great TV show and, it's all about swinging and you could be great and be part, because we had that interest from Open House and we said, fuck you.
We said no.
I think I said, fuck you and your morally reprehensible show. I think, I would be tempted to say that if they said that and said that tonight, my worry would be is if we didn't do it and someone else did, who's going to do it and what is going to be their representation of the lifestyle?
Yeah.
And are they going to represent the community that we're part of? And are they going to represent it in a light that shows it to be something that can be really enhancing to your relationship, that can help your mental health, that can motivate you to do all sorts of great things? Or are they just going to be some fucker that stands up there, says, we had an orgy last night, didn't even use condoms and we did this and we did that.
Well, like docking.
Yeah. And I think if they did that, then it takes us a couple of steps back. So I would rather take the hit myself, or us take the hit of being on there and trying to crash the plane in the right direction.
Yeah, I know.
Than let someone else do it. And it's not to say that I don't trust other people to say the right thing, but I don't know everyone else. And I don't know what they're going to say. And we've met enough people out there that wouldn't give a great view of it, that would say the wrong thing, that would colour us all with a really bad view. So I would much rather stand up and try to be as on message as I can be and be part of it. So even if the rest of the show is a bit shit, then at least our bit might help someone. Yeah,
at least as you say, at least we've done some damage control in an industry which already gets the finger pointed at it for all the wrong reasons too many times.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So on that note, I would be really interested to hear what you gentle listener thought about the thing.
I'm really interested to hear I mean, we've heard feedback obviously from, our immediate circle of friends and community members, and that's been interesting, and it's largely, on track with what we've felt as well. But I am really intrigued as to what people think and maybe how can we make it better? Come on.
Yeah.
Like if we do get an opportunity to do something like this again, how can we, as you say, land that plane in a more positive way?
I'll accept nothing less than my own show where I host it and we send people out and do interviews and like sort of in bed with me dinner type thing and big breakfast as a swinging show. That's what I want. That's what ultimately,
I know.
With that theme tune, I need the theme tune.
Get in touch. Tell us what you think.
Yeah,
I am interested, and I'm interested to see what you thought of the way we've tried to put things across as well. So yeah.
It's like rate our sex pick TV show.
Something like that.
Something like that. So Mrs. H, do your thing.
Thank you for hopping into our bed.
So, a few things I want you to say.
Oh my God, what?
Okay, Homer.
What? Oh, you horrible man.
God.
Okay, Homer.
How about yoik, Scoob?
Yoik, Scoob. Oh God, this is terrible, isn't it? I hate this. Anything else you want to piss take me?
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.